2. Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. You guys know we're mixing up the Baltimore Positive, mixing up the Ravens and football season here, but I got to rock and roll hard. I am wearing my Billy Joel shirt from the Camden Yard show a couple weeks ago, and everybody knows my almost famous past, but it's rare that something weird happens and I wind up in a venue with a band where I'm a little sort of understudied on the band. I mean, I'm seeing the Stones and Hootie and the Blow, these well-established bands, but then there's the tribute thing. So I found myself in San Diego, California, Christmas week of last year, staying downtown, a little bit bored. The place is a little rolled up after the Chargers left town, and I was out there actually for the Chargers-Ravens game, and a friend of mine said, man, there's this incredible tribute festival going on at the House of Blues. I had nothing to do. It was 2 blocks away. I forked over the $20. I went up, and it was a series of tribute bands, and everybody knows I like going to see Get the Lead Out and some other bands that play here. This is a West Coast band that I never would have known about. I probably wouldn't have gone had I not been told about it. The band is called Strangelove, and they actually headlined a festival with a New Order cover band, a David Bowie cover band. Bret Meyer is here. He is the counterfeit Martin Gore of the Depeche Mode cover band Strangelove. And Bret, let me tell you, I almost called you Martin because I did interview Martin Gore 30 years ago as well, and I know you have Julian and James from your band with you as well. I just want to give you a chance to stretch out and tell the story because I think one of the reasons you do this is to find some random dude like me from Baltimore who happened to be in San Diego, who happened to be at a festival, and said, oh my God, this is the greatest tribute band I've ever seen. So congratulations on that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at Soundstage here next week. I'm putting off my Ocean City trip by a day because you guys were just that magnificent, and I just wanted to hear the story about the band. So welcome to Baltimore. We're looking forward to having you and the Depeche Mode cover band coming in next week, man.
Well, thank you, Nestor. This is Bret. We're looking forward to being there on Friday the 16th. And, the story in short is I formed the first iteration of what turned into Strangelove in 2006 and have just been further refining it as I went. And it eventually gained enough notoriety where we got on the radar of Depeche Mode themselves. And, as just fans of their body of work, it was a dream come true to meet and interface with the band and their management and all of that. And Martin, the artist I play on the stage, has been very generous with us and even given me some synth programming tips and that sort of thing. And Alan Wilder also gave us some of their keyboard samples, the custom ones that they created, banging on pots and pans and such. And that's just lent another air of authenticity to the project, I think. And it's just, we just keep leveling it up year after year. And 2019's been our best year yet. We've been international. I went to Milan, Italy last year, and we got like 12 dates in Australia, New Zealand coming up in a couple of months. And it's just, we can't believe where it's taken up.
We're promoting a gig later in the month. There's a Billy Joel tribute act, a guy named Mike Del Judas that does this, and he's befriended Billy Joel, and they perform together and stuff. And, I saw the Stones, and there's so many Stones tribute bands. There's a Kiss tribute band here that a dear friend of mine that I grew up with is in, and Kiss is playing, and he's going to see the band. I would think in 2006, and I'm a longtime music fan, as you are, and you're a musician, to start a cover band or a tribute band. Tribute bands 15 years later have really become something, haven't they? I mean, and I guess the legacy of all of these bands lives on there's a Led Zeppelin tribute band coming through every 2 or 3 weeks, and I am astonished at just how good they are, And maybe 20 years ago it was maybe considered a little, well, we're not ready for that. How many tickets can we sell? It's sort of a cheap rip-off act or whatever. Now when Depeche Mode gets a little older and they only tour the world every 5 years and you have to pay a lot of money, I see that for all of the bands that can do this and do this well, it's a wonderful evening out to enjoy the music in a way that unless you have a DVD player and a big screen, right, this is the other way to sort of commune. And I know I've read your website. It really is made by fans for fans. That's what all of this is, right?
Absolutely. I think that, we kind of equate it to like a fan convention or, like Depeche Mode church when we do our shows. And
it felt like that. I swear to God, it felt like that.
Yeah, we're just as much participants in the fandom as everybody that comes to the shows. We're just kind of the vehicle for it, or medium, really. And I think that it's a wonderful thing to be a part of, and I think it's lent a lot of legitimacy because, as you said, Depeche Mode themselves, they only tour every 4 or 5 years, and you can go see our show for the price of parking at Depeche Mode's show. And
well, I mean, In Excess has a tribute band. They came around a couple weeks ago called Kick. They're wonderful. I saw them on. I haven't been to the show, but I've seen the videos, and it's so conducive in the modern era to say, hey, if you want to see what Strangelove's about, just put Strangelove, Google it up, and watch the video. See how good it is, and then you're going to want to come down to Soundstage next week and see it. The NXS band actually has Michael Hutchins' sister, who comes out and does some of the shows and meets the fans and stuff. A generation later, especially when we've lost so many of these people, and I know from your look, I'm a Mode fan. I know that they've had some mental health issues, and there's been all sorts of things that we're lucky Dave Gahan's still here, right? But for you guys to go out and do this 15 years into this and sort of perfect the art of it. I came in late to the party. Dude, I'm just a guy who bought a ticket that liked Depeche Mode and liked New Order and had nothing to do on a Saturday night in San Diego. And when I went in there, it really did feel a little sort of churchy to me. How do you put this thing together? Introduce your bandmates. I know you have Julian and James there with you from Strangelove as well. I know Leo's not there, but the first thing I did was like, who is this Leo guy? My God, he's sort of channeling him, right? And you feel that when I would think as a musician, the first time you meet a guy that can do what you need him to do, it must have been a pretty unique day the day you met him, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's only been with us about 18 months, actually, and when we auditioned him, it was just a no-brainer. I mean, I think, we just had him sing a couple of songs, but it was immediately evident once he opened his mouth and Dave Gahan came out.
Oh, there's very little doubt about that. Tell me about Julian and James and you guys and your friendship. And because look, I've been in a band, and I had the guys from Hootie and the Blowfish on this week, and 30 years later they're still friends. It's hard putting a band together. It's hard putting any relationship, any business partnership together. But as you're adults, you're all obviously wanting to go out on the road and travel and see Milan and see Baltimore and do this with music you love. But it's hard finding any 3, 4, 5 guys, a band to get together and keep it together, especially when you're trying to grow something that, quite frankly, isn't making you a living right in the beginning, right? I mean, you all had other jobs when you start this thing, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's a common misconception that tribute bands are weekend warriors, and a lot of them are, but I'd say certainly 3 of us in the band produce records for other artists and have, other music industry creds and have had record label deals and all that sort of thing. But we're doing this because we enjoy playing that body of music. It's just, it's a wonderful catalog to get to represent every weekend. And we're kind of perpetually on tour doing it every weekend. About 100 shows a year.
I want to get Julian and James in here because I know you brought them along as well. Hi, fellas. How you doing, man? Are you all from L.A.? I mean, Leo, I know, comes from Russia, New York. I've read the website. But as musicians and session musicians, I know a lot of folks that live in Nashville these days, and it's much easier to pick up work. But putting together a band and deciding to join a tribute band and do this, it's not for the faint of heart, I would say, right? It's an all-in experience as a musician to do this, right?
Well, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we all, as Brent said, we all do musical projects outside of tribute. And actually, strangely enough, I was the Bowie that you saw opening up for Strangelove.
Nice work. And it's quite a troupe, isn't it? And when you can put together 4 or 5 of those, it was a wonderful night. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better place to be in San Diego that night, honestly.
No, absolutely. I mean, tribute's just a wonderful thing. I mean, it's the best job in the world. It's making music for a living, playing songs by the artists that inspired you in the first place. So, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And it also, it's a great way of staying in front of a lot of eyes as an artist in your own right, because, it gives you a legitimacy and it keeps your chops up. I mean, if you're playing music that people love, if you don't do it well, people are very upset with you. So you have to do it as best as you can.
Hey, by any chance, Julian, did you catch the Bowie exhibit in New York or on the travel as it was going around? If you haven't, you must catch it.
I saw the David Bowie exhibit in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
Before it came to New York, I actually saw the Pink Floyd exhibit in that gallery about a year and a half ago as well. It's amazing. All these years later, we can go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the internet, all the old clips. I watch an old Bowie Sound and Vision tour from Japan that I have booted onto a DVD that I watch, and I actually panned that concert on the tour in 1990. And now 30 years later, I can't get enough of that version of Bowie and the Thin White Duke.
Right, exactly. No, I've been very lucky to meet a number of Bowie's collaborators, and I work with a couple of them, and so that's an honor to meet them. And obviously, performing in tribute, you get people who you would never expect to see you come and see you, and then when they discover about you and everything that you do, they give you a lot more legitimacy. It's an interesting kind of the snake that eats its own tail to a degree.
Well, the music 30 years later, for all of you, I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremonies up at the Barclays Center in New York, and, the Cure's going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and there's Reeves Gabrel, who I interviewed a million years ago when he was working Tin Machine with David Bowie, and all of this music still, and it's being honored now. It was a little bit in the corner, the Depeche Modes, the New Orders, and the Echo and the Bunnymen, and in the 80s, the sort of the mope rock thought that it would not be legitimized by rock 30 years later, where all of these bands, the Depeche Mode's a stadium, a band now, by keeping it together, because I think there are generations of fans now. My son loves this music as well.
Well, it's consistently great. I feel the music industry has taken a turn for the worse, where a lot of artists who come up don't have the record company support, and they don't have the record sales anymore to be able to maintain. The Cure is probably one of my favorite bands, and they had maybe 5 albums before they had legitimate real-world success, yet the record label they were signed to would support them still. That doesn't happen anymore in the music industry. If a band doesn't have immediate, sales or immediate success, they tend to be dropped by a record label. So it's a different paradigm now. That's why bands like The Cure and Depeche Mode survived. Depeche Mode would not survive their second record in this day and age.
Strangelove is the band. They are a Depeche Mode tribute band that's amongst the best I've ever seen. Brent Meyer's on the line with us, Julian Shaw Taylor, as well as James Evans, putting together the band. Leo Luginski is the singer and doing the Ultra Dave. It's next Friday night. It's at the Soundstage on the 16th. Hope everybody comes down and checks it out. If you love Depeche Mode, there's nothing I love better than hearing the beginning of Violator and hearing the World in My Eyes. Have you guys thought about doing the whole album? You didn't do Halo that night. Can I make a Halo request for next Friday night? Tell me about it.
Done deal. We're actually on our Australia-New Zealand tour I mentioned earlier. This is Brent again.
Okay.
I think we're presenting Violator front to back plus B-sides in album order, and then some extra greatest hits.
But not in Baltimore. I got to go to Australia to get that.
Yeah. Well, we might do that somewhere else on the East Coast later in the year. But, for Baltimore, it's just... But that said, there'll be a lot of songs from Violator, and we'll be sure to include Halo for you.
All
and
right.
we try to give a lot of bang for buck and value in the show, and it's, pretty much a 2-hour set, 23, 24 songs.
Well, it's going to be nice and hot. It gets a little warm inside Soundstage. I'll be ready to sweat it out and listen to the music. I want to make sure I get James in here as well. James, tell me how you came to the band, and how is this something where you guys are friends, or we always hear about it. I put an ad in the Village Voice, right? To find my keyboard player or whatever. But finding guys that work together, I'm always interested in that dynamic about how a band comes together and sustains itself to get on an airplane and come to Baltimore to play,
Well, my introduction to this band was when Brent had his original iteration of the band way back at the beginning, because I was friends with the guy that was doing the Alan Wilder at the time. We coached high school baseball together, and he told me about this band he was in. He said, "Hey, if you come out and see a show once in a while," so I would, and I would see a show here.
So this thing came together because you were a baseball coach?
Exactly. That's how I got introduced to the band.
See, I knew baseball brings the world together, man. I tell everybody that.
It does. It does. Unless you're a Yankee fan, in which case, okay.
Well, they're in town tonight, so we have none of that. Yeah, they've been here all week beating our brains.
I hope the O's do them in.
Well, yeah. What are you? What's your fandom?
With baseball, I coached for so long that I just really love to watch a well-played game now. I don't really have. I follow.
Well, the game's changed so much, right?
There.
Nobody's hitting and running. Nobody's stealing bases. It's a home run.
Exactly.
It's a different kind of game, and I think we're all adjusting to that, man.
Exactly.
Well,
so
look.
anyways, fast forward from my introduction.
Sure.
Years later, they needed a roadie, and I had the time, so I kind of squirreled my way into the group by being their roadie and carrying their gear around for a couple of years until I saw an opening coming around, and I sat down with Bret and pled my case a couple times and showed him I could clap in time like Andrew Fletcher does.
Perfect.
And he gave me a shot, and he says, yeah, let's see what you can do. And 5.5 years later, I'm still here.
You're in the band, as they say. Hey, Brent, you put together bunches of these bands, right? Like you, at the end, you were behind the project at House of Blues, obviously, with Julian doing the Bowie part. Whoever was in the New Order band, I drank with them watching your act, and I told them how good they were because they were phenomenal as well.
They're Temptation, tribute to New Order from San Francisco area, good mates of ours. And in fact, Julian just produced, their singer Darwin has an original album out that Julian just finished producing, and they collaborate with David J. of Love and Rockets and Bauhaus. And so it's a small insular world, as he said, snake eating its own tail. It's a lot of the same people working together that enjoy the same sort of music.
Well, look, you guys had me Googling you that night, so I came back and I said, I have a couple of friends here. My dear friend who was in my band, Ron West, who was my keyboard player, loves you guys. I got him backstage passes 30 years ago. We got to meet Martin and all those guys at Merriweather. So we had this band, and he was the first guy I reached. I said, you got to see this band. He's like, I know about him, but they haven't played around here. And then there was that night in Wilmington back in April where I had my wife already, I had the cheesesteaks already, and I got the schedule wrong. So the fact that you guys are in Baltimore, it's been about 9 months since I've seen you guys play. I'm really looking forward to it. I really appreciate you taking a little time and coming on my show and my podcast and telling us about Strangelove. We'll see you next Friday night and hopefully hearing 2 hours and 1 minute of great Depeche Mode music as you guys come to town. Appreciate the time, fellas.
Excellent. We'll see you at Soundstage.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so
Brett
much.
Meyer, Julian Shaw Taylor, as well as James Evans. He's the baseball coach. They're coming to Baltimore. The band is Strangelove, as good a tribute to Depeche Mode as you'll ever see. It's at Soundstage on the 16th. We hope to see you down there. You can find me out at thebuyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. The music, the Baltimore Positive, all the Raven stuff, getting you ready for football season. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports and a little rock and roll.